Hey y'all, hey, we are back for another review of Sisters. We're on season 8, episode 14, entitled Knock Knock. So we see Robin and he's at the jailhouse, detainment center, wherever it is that Penelope is being housed. He is there and he's talking to the lady up front, the receptionist of sorts, to get checked in and do what he needs to do so they can see Penelope and talk to her. And then Jordan notices him there and he's less than thrilled to see Robin. Oh, but of course, and then Robin is, he's going back there and he's like, what are you doing here? Whatever. I'm here to see about your sister, blah, 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 whoop-de-whoop. And then, while they're arguing, the receptionist offers a lady, she's like, okay, you've been cleared to go back to see Penelope, your client, so you can go ahead and head back and talk to her. The second he goes back and the doors close behind him, Andy comes rushing in. She comes rushing, like she is almost sweating. She's exasperated from running in to stop Robin from going in to see Penelope, because now that she's talked to Zach and Fatima, she also believes that Robin could also be a viable suspect, which means it wouldn't be in Penelope's best interest for him to represent her, because, hey, if you did it, you might let me go down for the crime. Got it? Okay. All right, now, she's talking to Jordan, and she tells him, like, hey, well, she tells the receptionist, hey, I'm Penelope's representation. She was like, no, Penelope's representation just went back there, so I don't know what you're talking about. And then she says, I need to see Penelope immediately, and she's starting to regret, well, she's definitely regretting at this point, sending Robin in there to represent her in this upcoming case, or what could be an upcoming case. She can't explain it right now to Jordan, and Jordan's making a scene. How dare you send your ex-boyfriend in there to represent my sister? Our lives have been terrible since we came into contact with you. So we're seeing all this stuff coming to fruition, where Agent Watts' thoughts that he'd been putting in Jordan's mind all this time, and he's kind of taking on a lot of that language. Like, our lives have been ruined since you came into my life. I should have never, started dealing with you, blah, 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 whoop-de-whoop. He's making a scene, and Andy's like, listen, I'm telling you, like, I can't get into it right now. Like, we in the moment, we on scene. I can't get into it, but I'll let you later. So of course, we'll deal with that more in the episode. So Danny, she is up the next day from her panic attack scare. And Sabrina is right there, by her side. And she's done made her breakfast, and she's going above and beyond to make sure her friend is comfortable. And she also went home for a little bit to get ready for work, and even came back to make sure she was going to be there by the time Danny woke up for the day. Okay? And then Danny tells her, listen, you didn't have to do all that. Like, I was tripping yesterday with the panic attack and everything. All of this is not necessary. And Sabrina assures her, like, hey, you were not tripping. You were not being dramatic. This is not a small issue that we can brush under the rug. While, yes, a panic attack is not a heart attack. It's not anything that people would consider major. It is still, it's still something for a big deal to be made out of. She's like, listen, not only did you have one panic attack, like you had multiple panic attacks back to back. And what I appreciate about this scene is that Sabrina made it a point to let her to not allow her, and to also not participate in minimizing her ailment, like her disability. Panic attacks are disabling by nature. Again, just as somebody that has had panic attacks previously, I haven't had one in a very long time, but that takes a toll on your body, takes a toll on your mind, your appetite. Everything about your nervous system is affected when it comes to a panic attack. So I'm glad she did not let her friend minimize it, and she was there for her, because this is her first time experiencing it. My first time I was by myself, and I thought I was having a panic attack. I went all down to the emergency room. I was like, yeah, I'm finna die. Y'all gonna hook me up to this EKG machine. Let me know how long I got left so I can go ahead and make my arrangements. But either way, I appreciated that Sabrina took the time to let her know, like, hey, we're not minimizing this. It's important. I'm here for you. I'm not out of my way. All that good stuff. Okay. Penelope is not trying to hear anything that Robin is talking about, because he introduces himself as being there, off of Andy's recommendation. And she's not hearing it, but he tells her, like, hey, I understand, your angst, your issues, your reservations about Andy Barnes, but she sent me here as a favor. I'm here off of her recommendation, and what I want you to not do is, I don't want you to cut your nose off to spite your face. And that is like a old wives' tale or old statement, where it is like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but don't miss your blessing because you got an attitude. Essentially, like don't shoot the messenger. I'm just here to be of assistance. Is how I can sum that up. If you could do a little better with explaining that, I don't want this video to be long. So, let me know what you think in the comments. How would you describe that to someone that has never heard that statement? All right, and so she does admit that she may be facing some serious charges, and she didn't mean to confess. And Robin asked her like, "Hey, what do you mean?" She was like, "Yeah, I know, like, I left the witness protection. I followed him to the venue, and everything else is a blur, but I did wake up with blood on my hands." And Robin asked her like, "Hey, how are you and your brothers?" And her brother found her. "How are you so sure that you and your brother how are you and your brother so sure that it was Gary's blood?" Now, if you put together all the circumstantial evidence, which is what it's going to look like, to a jury of her peers, this is all circumstantial. There's no actual DNA. We didn't test the blood that was found on her. All that stuff has been cleaned up. Again, circumstantial at best. And she was like, "I have no idea how we will be able to determine that it was Gary's blood." Now, what that gives me a thought about is maybe it was not Gary's blood. I don't think Penelope did it at all. But maybe, remember, she is fresh off of a trauma-induced miscarriage, right? So with Gary beating her up and kicking her and her losing that baby, at his hands, maybe that is just some residual blood loss. And maybe that's also why she blacked out and Jordan found her. So maybe Jordan, she blacked out from that blood loss, got lightheaded or whatever and passed out. And Jordan found her before she could even confront Gary, because I don't remember in any of her confessions where she actually recalls having a conversation with Gary. She remembers following him to the venue and waking up with blood in her hands. So it could very well just be her blood. Or maybe she got there in the aftermath. I don't know. I know she didn't do it. That's all. That's the best I can come up with in this moment. Anyway, Robin is talking to her, kind of getting the preliminary information, and he asked her, anyway, and she was like, "Listen, she didn't have a lawyer." He asked her like, "Hey, did you have a lawyer present when you made this supposed confession to Agent Watt?" Who she's calling Josh, because she's become friendly with him while in witness protection. Nothing sexual, just a little bit more comfortable than a professional relationship, right? And so Robin asked her like, "Hey, did you have a lawyer present when you were being questioned by Agent Watt?" And she was like, "No." She's like, "Yeah, Josh questioned me and I just kind of answered the questions he asked." And he was like, "Did you sign a sworn statement?" She was like, "No, I just told him what I believe happened." And then she was like, I didn't think of any of these preliminary things to do because I believe Josh to be my friend." So Josh is Agent Watt. Again, he's almost coerced it out of her without force. So, you'll look at Law and Order and you'll see what like it's force, like tell me. It's like good cop, bad cop. It's a lot of anger and forcefully getting that information or forcefully getting that confession or leaving these people in these interrogation rooms for 12, 24, all these hours to force a confession. It is exhaustion. It is a tactic that the military has used to, do what they need to do to get information. That's all I know. Either way, so it looks like he's kind of used the nice guy tactic to become friendly with her in her vulnerable state, again, fresh off of a miscarriage, to get this confession out of her under the guise of, "I'm your friend, I have your best interest at heart, blah, 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 blah." Coercion by kindness, essentially. So she tells Robin that they grew close while she was in protective custody, and that he knows that something, and as they're talking, Robin realizes that something is not right with Agent Wyatt / Josh, right? And he will do all he can do to help Penelope if she will allow him to help her, which his wheels are turning, and he's realizing like, hey, Josh did some sketchy stuff, and whatever this case is circumstantial at best, and his coercion by kindness, all that stuff, it is not going to hold up in court. So of course there's going to be a point when he confronts Josh / Agent Watt about his deceptive practices and, crossing that professional boundary. All right, Tony shows up at Danny's with the teddy bear and an apology in hand, and she thinks that the gesture is, again, all too much for just a simple panic attack. And like I've said before, it's not simple. It's a major health issue. It's debilitating if they're bad enough. Yes, you don't have to go get admitted to the hospital for treatment, but it takes a toll on the body. She also offers him an apology for kicking him out, and now we've done our apologies, blah, 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 blah. We could talk about how she is really feeling. She tells him, like, the rest did do her a world of good, and that Carisha the therapist, called her doctor to put her on some anti-anxiety medication. Again, she's kind of making fun of it because she doesn't think it's big enough for the medication. Now, I don't know about no anti-anxiety medication because, you know, black woman, America, pushed through, never got diagnosed, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. But she does tell him that she doesn't have the capacity to talk about everything, like the full extent, how we got here right now. And she asked for a little bit more time to process everything. And I like that because that shows growth. While she can't see it, there's a conversation that her and Zach have in this episode that I didn't really document, where we're reiterating, like, you might not be able to see the growth when you're healing and you're going to therapy and you're doing these different things, but the minor choices, the choices that you make in those little small moments show that she's different. And I say that because in this scene it shows that she's different, because as opposed to getting pissed at Tony, being like, don't ask me everything that put me in this place, you're the one that got me here, like she had just said a couple of days before, she was like, listen, I don't have the capacity to run down everything. Give me a little bit more time and we'll revisit this later. And I thought that was nice. That was great. Okay. And she asked him for a little bit more time to process everything, but she does go on to admit that after her assault in college, kind of talking to like the hyper promiscuous actions that she does have sometimes, which she's kind of reliving the most recent incident with her and Tony and how she got triggered. So they were about to be intimate, and then she thought back on the therapy sessions and maybe what led her to be hypersexualized and to use that as a coping mechanism. And she tells him, hey, that after she was assaulted in college, she decided to just give men sex to avoid, you know, the threat or the physical assault that could come from not giving it to him. And so to avoid it being taken from her or forcefully, you know, all that not good stuff, but all that stuff, she decided, hey, I'm gonna get the jump on you. I'm gonna go ahead and jump your bones first, so you don't even have to be bothered with asking me about it. I see the correlation. I see how she came up with that, and you know, I just thank the character for sharing that. That's all I got on that one. That's all I got on that particular part, because that is a lot to process. But I see how she's adapted and how that's become a mechanism to avoid, you know, being hurt, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, all that good stuff. All right. Robin runs into Agent Wyatt / Josh outside, and he brags that Robin is just too little too late because the case is closed because of the admission, right? And Robin reminds him of all the circumstantial stuff that is happening during the investigation, and he tells him, like, hey, sounds like you're crossing some professional lines just to get this confession out of Penelope. And then Robin knows that there is not much about this case that might hold up in court. Like I said, a jury of your peers could call all of this circumstantial, because keep in mind, every single person that's been questioned was headed to that wedding. So it wasn't a secret. It doesn't make her the only suspect. So it'll be very easy to point to 10, 12 other suspects at this point. Again, making things circumstantial that could divide the jury. Mistrial, she goes home scot-free. So do you want to fight that fight? All right, Robin, Agent White tells him, like, hey, I did my own investigation on you since you were worried about me, and I know that you also have motive to stab Gary, right? Because you know, he tried to take the company from under you. He took Andy from you, just, you know, personal and professional stuff that you have against Gary. So, you know, while I'm investigating Penelope, you should also be, you know, one of the potential witnesses. And Robin he's unmoved at the threats from Agent Watt, but he does tell him, like, since we handing out threats, I am threatening to strike up a civil suit if Penelope is not released within the hour. And that civil suit is going to, again, talk to his unprofessionalism and the way that he was able to coerce her. This lady that was in a diminished mental capacity because of her, you know, baby being lost. It's a way to, you know, get this done in court. And then a civil suit, you know, that's going to come with financial payment for sure. And so the FBI, he's an FBI agent. The FBI don't want that negative mark on them. So now Agent White has a decision to make. Like, you got an hour to let her go come up with some evidence, and maybe we can visit this case later. But for right now, she has to go. You don't have nothing to hold her with. So then there's that. We see Robin and Penelope coming from the back within that hour, within minutes probably, and it appears that she's been released. She can't leave Atlanta. Of course, you can't leave. You're still a person of interest. You can't leave the Atlanta area. But at least she's free for the time being, and she can be with her brother. And we figure out the next steps, if there even are next steps. All right. Rich and Sabrina are at the doctor. A couple episodes ago, the doctor called him in about his sperm samples. Something came back, something concerning, and he tells him, the nurse or whatever he is tells him, like, hey, your sperm was fine, but that he carries the trait for sickle cell anemia, so he is not able to be a donor. And so what that means is when you're on these registries, I don't know nothing about it. I'm just my unprofessional experience. When you're on these things, they have to test your DNA. Because, like they said, they don't want people with certain traits that could be a liability to their company. They want. All right, in some instances, you can thumb through a book of donors and, determine, hey, he got blue eyes. Oh, his family's millionaires. Like, you can pick your donor based on all of these superficial, in my opinion, criteria. But there's also people that have genetic markers where they don't want these people because that makes the chances higher that your child will have these different things because of what their potential father carries. And so now that he has the sickle cell trait, that's taxing as far as people's bodies and immune systems and all the things that come with that particular illness. So they're not going to keep his sperm on file as an eligible donor, but that does not mean he cannot be Sabrina's baby daddy. They would just have to do it the traditional way. And that's just it what it is. So basically this donor place don't really have nothing else to do with this, and I'm sure we're not going to see anything else from them unless Sabrina picks up and goes back to her coworker, because I think he did all the preliminary testing and it came back fine. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I'm sure we got 2 or 3 more episodes in the season, and we'll talk about it. Sometimes you don't know who your child's dad's going to be because you don't do this preliminary testing, and maybe the child does end up with sickle cell and you had no way or no means to determine that. But now that she has the information, I wonder what Sabrina is going to do with it. That's what I'd like to know. What y'all think she should do? I feel like she should not move any further. This is me. Let's talk about it in the comments if y'all feel different. I feel like she shouldn't. Again, a lot of people that end up with it, with the trait, blah, 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 they didn't do the testing, finances, medical system, black people. There's a whole history there, right? Either way, I wouldn't. You have the information and you don't have to. Like, this ain't your husband. He's not your husband, so hey, and that's also, of course, you could take the risk and the child come out perfectly fine without sickle cell, but you can't really guarantee it. I mean, Rich barely wanted to do it anyway. I just wouldn't take the risk. Andy seems to take issue with Robin getting Penelope released. And then she comes right out and asks him if he did it out of guilt. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? And she was like, it's pretty funny that you fought that hard to get her out of there. And then she just straight up asked him, like, hey, are you the one that stabbed Gary? No, we don't get an answer this episode, but we'll figure it out next week. Either way, she did ask him, and we'll find out next week exactly whatever he has to say. We'll see her Fatima. She's going to go over to Karen's house. That conversation will happen next week as well. Blah, blah, blah. Agent Watt goes to Gary to the hospital, and he has pictures in hand to help jog Gary's memory. He has pictures of all the girls. He is showing pictures of all the girls to him, and he's like, nope, Penelope is among the pictures that he shows him. Nope, that's not jogging any memories. And he doesn't know who she is. Then he shows him a picture of Fatima, and he says, that was her. That's her. She did it. She did this to me. Now, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think maybe he's thinking about like her threatening him all these times, and maybe that's coming back to his memory, because then he mentioned something about Zach hitting him over the head. I think him and Zach may have gotten into a physical altercation. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think of Fatima. I think he's mixed up, and this is also circumstantial. This is not admissible, because if his memories are gone, how does he remember her? So that's circumstantial at best as well. Like, that can get mixed up and jumbled up in his memory coming back if it ever went anywhere. Anyway, that is what happened, child. So we're gonna have to deal with him pointing Agent Watt towards Zach and Fatima. We've got 2 more episodes. Again, I don't remember if it's 2 or 3. Let's just say 2, just because. We only got 2 more episodes in the season. Again, I want to wrap this up so we can move on. I want to wrap this up so we can move on. What I also want to be wrapped up is I want Jordan and Andy to be wrapped up and done, so that she can move on and be a freaking nutcase for another young gentleman in the Atlanta area. I want Gary to be so shaken up at the fact that somebody tried to unalive him that he's going to disappear off into the abyss, because this is too much. That's what I want. So we'll see what happens in the next couple episodes. Either way, that has been season 8, episode 14. Let me know what you think about the episode in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.